in this hectic, crazy world of ours, you sometimes forget the most important lesson. Now, of course, I'm not speaking about some life-altering epiphany here, just mentioning the simple pleasures of owning, using, and, while enjoying a dedicated camera for your hobby photography, street photography, holidays, and the like. It simply cannot compete with the post-processing prowess of a smartphone, nor the connectivity and the ease of use, the convenience of having everything at your literal fingertips. However, in the process, I think we have lost something very important. Is it the tactility of the gadget? The satisfaction of knowing that you use the bespoke tool for a specific job, or rather the quirkiness of each camera design and part, we have sorely missed them and we didn't even realize we needed them back in our lives. I know there has been a trend of late to reuse and revisit these old cameras, but they somehow just don't do it for me. However, I have found something that does. I am speaking, of course, about the Lumix GX800 from Panasonic. This is not a premium camera. This is plastic all the way. The only metal element in the whole chassis is this lens mount, common to other Micro Four Thirds cameras. However, this doesn't mean it's a cheap construction or an ergonomic nightmare. Quite the contrary, actually. It is a bespoke piece of kit and it is a delight to hold in hand, operate, or just strut around. The best thing about it, however, is actually the ergonomics. This has taught me all over again to appreciate the tactility of such a gadget and, well, to rely on muscle memory when it comes to handling photography. And this is especially important to me since I am farsighted and I need to wear glasses whenever I operate a small device like a smartphone. Now, with the camera, I can skip that step altogether and, well, rely in 70 to 80% of the time on using the buttons to operate the commands and take photos, videos, and so on. And speaking of which, I think it's time we just took this thing out for. Speaking of which, I think it's time we took this thing out for a test and see what it has to offer in 2026 in terms of photography capabilities. Now, of course, I shall be pairing it with the Lumix 12-32 pancake lens, which came in the original kit. And, well, in the meantime, let's just quickly try to appreciate the retro design and the beautiful camera and lens combination that is in front of us. For better or worse, this is actually a sight magnet and it catches everyone's eye when I hold it during my escapades. In terms of street photography performance, this thing really shines. It's the combination of ergonomics and carefully laid out commands and features that really put this Panasonic Lumix GX800 above the generic smartphone, even in 2026, at least in my mind. In aperture priority mode, during a visit in Spain and Malaga, this thing performed beautifully. Now, of course, the shots are not artistic. As you can see in these examples shown, there is no room for bokeh effect, and while that's due to the aperture of the lens, this is a kit lens after all, but the results are pretty impressive. The color rendering is nice, vivid, and correctly set up, albeit a bit too vibrant to some to some people's preferences, though the end results are pretty impressive. In low light conditions, of course, this camera and lens combo struggles, and I shall show you a few examples here. It is here inside an automotive themed museum that you can really see the limitations of the aperture opening. And well, besides the natural lack of the bokeh effect, this lens and camera combo struggles with low light conditions. You can see that the images start to become blurry, and well, of course you can correct this from the ISO, but then the images become too noisy, and again, it's not a desired effect. I would stick this camera solely for outdoor and street photography usage, and well, it is that where it shines. Even the landscape scenery images are actually pretty decent. A lot of details, not a lot of distortion on the wider end of the lens on 12mm in the micro four thirds setup, and well, you can see the shots are actually pretty good. Video performance is where this thing really impressed me. Well, I know it's not to the standard of 2026 in terms of image stabilization. However, if the conditions are right, meaning you grab the camera by the grip and slowly but firmly pull it towards you, or rather do a swivel motion with your whole body, this thing actually rendered pretty good results. Now, of course, it cannot compete with the camera that has an onboard IBIS, a 5-axis stabilization system, nor can it compete with the OIS on phones. However, it still produces pretty decent 4K videos, and, well, I declare myself pretty satisfied in that regard. Now, there is a caveat with the video, and this is a limitation of the camera design. This thing offers only an inboard microphone, so you don't really have the option to attach an external microphone. Therefore, the sounds are not really that pleasant, and it doesn't really sound all that good. On the upside though, autofocus is really fast and snappy and does produce excellent results all the time, even in, well, let's say challenging lighting conditions. And furthermore, the autofocus is easily selectable and accessible from both the menu of the camera and from the touchscreen itself, which again is snappy and responsive. This really feels like a next generation touchscreen, a screen that modern users can relate to and appreciate in terms of feedback and performance. Value, however, is a bit of a mixed bag with this camera. I'm not gonna pretend that you cannot buy a better performing camera for 300 euros, what this thing goes for when in mint condition, which is a bit of a steep price considering the materials are not premium, even though the fit and finish are exquisite and the retro vibe is absolutely delightful with this camera. However, all these aspects aside, I think the best attribute of this particular camera is pairing it with the Lumix 12-32 pancake lens. I think that this was a genius move. The design fits, the fact that the Lumix pancake lens does not offer a bespoke manual focus ring on the lens itself renders it more useful for quick, snappy shots in street photography during holidays and city breaks. To my mind, it wouldn't really make sense to pair such a camera, a petite and beautiful, rather interesting looking camera, with a big 14-42 lens. And that's saying nothing of pairing it with a zoom lens like the 45-150, or rather the 45-200 zoom lens. I guess what I am trying to say is that this is not the best for the buck camera out there, but rather a bespoke, specific, exquisitely designed camera that works in certain conditions like city breaks and holidays. As for me, however, remember, I hoard, purchase and collect weird and quirky obsolete tech stuff like this gathering of Lumix lenses and cameras, so you don't have to. I thank you for watching and I shall see you in the next one. Bye bye.